Hi, I'm Emily.
And I'm Mary.
Welcome to Chatterbox Box, an F1 podcast.
Box.
Welcome back to our second episode of Chatterbox Box.
We're so happy to be here. We have navigated so many technical issues to get to this point, and we are thrilled to be here. We have a very fun episode planned, I think.
I think so too. I'm very proud of us for persevering through all of our technical difficulties, but I'm assuming after the recording and after some editing,
It's going to be amazing. So let's tell everybody what we're getting into today.
Yes. So we're going to kick things off with some recent F1 news, New Year's Eve traditions, Charles and his new APM ad, Lewis, happy birthday, Lulu, and Alfa Romeo moving on to their new name of Stake. And then kind of starting the book series, book club off to a good start, we're going to talk and discuss all things Throttled by Lauren Asher.
Yes, and obviously, as you said, happy birthday to Lewis Hamilton. We're filming this on January 7th, and it is our king's birthday, so happy birthday to him.
Happy birthday, sir.
Last time we filmed was before the new year, so we have to talk about fun stuff that's happened over the week in F1 news. I think, to me, the funniest thing is George and Fernando continuing the tradition of hanging out on New Year's Eve. So funny.
I find that equally hilarious. Because I only joined the F1 world Q4-ish, late Q3, early Q4. I don't know how the two became best friends or even how did they even start this tradition? How?
Honestly, I was trying to look into it because I was like, what's going on? And the first time I saw the picture, I thought it was George photo dumping 2023 because George is
So
basically
similar.
wearing the same outfit.
Yes.
George, do you only have one outfit? That's so iconic. And then I realized oh no, this is a new picture. So I saw somebody saying that it's a annual New Year's Eve party in Monaco that they just both happen to be going to because I'm sure they both have houses or apartments or whatever in Monaco or
Yeah.
yachts.
All of the above.
Probably all of the above. But I'm just curious why no other drivers are there. Why just those two? What's the connection? It's so funny to me. I also think they're the two funniest drivers on the grid right now. So just hilarious all around.
Agreed. Yeah, I think when you had shared the photos with me, I was like, isn't this on the same day? I'm so confused because the colors are the same, they have that same purple strobe lighting, and I'm like, that no way. They all look the same. Hairdo looks the same. I really couldn't figure it out. And then I also tried to look into the history, and yeah, it's supposedly 2 different years, which is really awesome. And I really look forward to 2024. And I hope to see the same strobe lights and the same kind of party environment.
I think I would sell an organ to talk to Carmen and hear what George and Fernando's interactions are like. I would love to know.
Same, same.
I also think they have a 20-year age gap or something, and they seem to really enjoy each other's company at these New Year's parties. So
Yeah.
slay.
I love that. Actually, one of my close friends now, since I've moved to the other side of the state, is at least 20 years older than me, and we vibe. It's kind of cool. She stays pretty hip and young, and I get so many insights from her, but she's also so hilarious. I'm always cracking up at her jokes.
That's so great. I feel like George is a little bit of an old soul too.
Oh, 100%.
He is so funny. We have to include the pictures in the video version of this so people can see what we're talking about. I mean, I'm sure everybody's seen it, but it's
Yes.
so funny.
We'll do some editing magic.
Yes, yes. So what else happened this week? I feel like this was a busy like F1 news week.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So Alfa Romeo is now called Stake. And I'm sure everyone has also seen like their announcement. I was very confused about why Drake, the, the Canadian rapper, made the announcement. And I was like, and I really liked it because I essentially, like in our notes, I was like, why Drake and why Stake? Why Drake? Why Stake?
Yeah, I'm like so thrown off by this. I really liked the name Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo is Sauber, right? Like that's what they used
Yes.
to be called. I like Alfa Romeo. I think it's like a nice, classy name. It sounds like bougie. I like it. So I don't really love steak. I'm not gonna. What's the full name? Because it's like long, right?
Yeah, it's really long. And like, I think the confusing part is that they also have Kick, like
Oh yeah.
one team,
Mhm.
which I think is what they're going to call themselves in like places where they race that don't allow soliciting of gambling or like casinos, which like at that point, why don't you just call the team Sauber?
Or kick. Just call it kick.
Yes, exactly. Which, like, I'm also not a huge fan of, but I did kind of look into this a little bit more, at least on the why Drake side. And supposedly it's because Drake is endorsing Stake, the cryptocurrency betting and casino
This is like
platform.
so funny to me.
I find that so amusing. And I was curious if you think like Drake's curse will affect the stake team because he's kind of known to supposedly like every time he supports like either a sports team or an athlete, they like suffer a loss, whether that's like really big, like a really big loss or a really small loss.
I think it's gonna be really hard to measure because Alfa Romeo stake is not like a top of the grid team usually. So it's gonna be kind of hard to tell. Like, is this the Drake curse or is this just par for the course?
Yeah, really good point. I think we would have to take a look at like their standings in the past years as well, just to see if there's a trend.
Yeah, I know like obviously Valtteri and Joe are like really good drivers and sometimes they qualify in the top 10.
Yeah.
But I don't think they've placed very well in this past year, at least as far as I remember. Nothing memorable stands out.
Yeah, I think I am in the same boat. All right. Well, we don't love the name Steak. We also don't love Kick. But yeah, I guess moving on to the next topic, do you want to talk about Lewis's potential girlfriend?
I feel that it's probably a definite girlfriend. I don't know. She's
Mhm.
been at some of the races this season. I don't remember her name. I think it's like, I don't know, Juliana. I want to say she's a model in Brazil. So she'd been at some of the races this season, and then Lewis and her were hanging out on New Year's Eve. So I feel like you just don't really hang out with like someone on New Year's Eve, just you and them, unless you're like dating or it's like your bestie or like your family member. So me thinks that they're dating, but I feel like he keeps his love life very private since like Nicole Scherzinger. That was very public. But I feel like I haven't really heard much about him dating at all, really, since then. But I think there was this video that went around like I don't even remember when, maybe like March, April, and he was in a hot tub with Shaun White, the snowboarder, and Shaun White's like taking a selfie of himself. And he like pans over to Lewis, and there's like a girl sitting on his lap in the hot tub. And I'm pretty sure it's the same girl. Like, I don't know if you really saw her face, but I think it's maybe the same girl. So, seems like she's been around for a while. So, glad Lewis is having some fun on his holiday break and maybe spending time with his potential girlfriend. Sad it's not me though.
I am very sad that it's not you because we did like a whole astrological chart. Like we Googled it, and you and Lulu were like, you guys were like, I think you guys surpassed 100% compatibility,
Yeah,
which
I didn't know if we were gonna tell the listeners about but we both took them and we were like putting in random like F1 drivers and like other celebrities or whatever. And I was
yes.
just like laughing, like whatever. And for some reason, it was so high. It was like over 100%. And then you were like, oh, I need to do one with Charles. And you did it. And that was also over 100%. So,
It wasn't, but it was like 99 point like
oh, yeah, it was
or like
like ridiculously high.
99.9. Yeah, it was ridiculously high. Like, and then I decided to do it for the rest of the F1 team. And like, I was curious about my compatibility with Max because I don't think we would be compatible. And I was right. It was like 60%. I was like, that's fun.
16 or 60?
60.
Oh, that's still pretty high.
That is still pretty high. Like I think I would enjoy his presence, maybe like off the track because he's kind of ruthless on the track.
Mhm.
But I do enjoy like seeing him with like children and like Penelope and all of that. Like he's a
Yeah.
very sweet dude.
Yeah. Yeah. He seems like a nice guy off the track.
Yes.
Maybe. Actually, I don't know. He seems like good with kids off the track. He seems like nice to his girlfriend.
Yeah, 100%. I can't say I think anything else other than that.
Yeah. So we have to talk about Charles's new ad with APM.
Oh, I I eat those ads up mostly because, you know, you get to see some eye candy like Charles is very attractive. But this ad in particular, I like swooned on the close-up of his hands and his arms, which makes sense because he was wearing like jewelry to like show off. But I was just swooning. And then like the cuts where like he's just running, like boy, where are you running to? Let me follow you, but like preferably like with something on wheels because I don't think I have the stamina for that.
Yeah. Did you ever see I think it was the Vegas race. He's like doing an interview after and he's trying to like put on bracelets and the interviewer is like, "Oh, you got to put your jewelry on." And I'm wondering if that's the same brand. Like that's if that's the jewelry he was trying to put on.
I think it might have been, and I feel like that would have been the perfect kind of situation to be like, oh yeah, this is like the brand. Like it would have been like perfect like brand placement for him. But I think we all kind of felt flustered in that moment. It was like a very awkward situation that like, why would you point that out?
Yeah, I was like, "Oh my God." That made me so uncomfortable for him.
I know. I was like, please don't. I was like getting territorial and defensive. I was like, no, don't ask him about that.
Yeah,
Leave
like
him
please do
alone.
not perceive Charles. He's just trying to do his job.
Exactly.
Should we get into the book?
I think so. It's about time. So, Throttled by Lauren Asher. This was my first kind of F1 related like romance read. Is this also your like first F1?
Yeah, reading this was so nostalgic for me because I think I said it in last week's episode, but this is the book that got me into F1. I ate this up when I read it. I really love Lauren Asher. She has the Dreamland Billionaires series, and I read that and ate that up. And then I was like, oh, I should read more of her books. And I read this and really just like clearly changed my life because why was I more interested when I was reading this in the sport than the romance? And I was like, hmm. And then I kept reading the rest of the series. And then I was like, wait, I need to actually start watching this. So it was almost a year ago that I read this for the first time. So rereading it was like really nostalgic because I feel like my life has changed so much in the past year in terms of just like becoming more of an F1 fan and getting more into it. So it was cute.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I guess this is a really nice stopping point if you guys haven't read Throttled yet and you want to. There might be spoilers, so proceed with caution. But if you don't really care and you're just kind of open to hearing about like our thoughts, feel free to proceed. But I can kind of read the overall synopsis and we can kind of go from there.
Yes, yeah, definitely not a spoiler-free zone, sorry everyone, but
Yeah.
read it and come back.
Exactly. Reach out to us if you want to talk about Throttled or any other F1 book. All right. So Throttled follows Maya Alator and Noah Slate's relationship. Maya is a recent graduate whose brother, Santiago, recently joined the Bantini team, which is Noah's rival. Since Maya graduated, she decided to come along with Santi to vlog about her travels and F1 experience, swearing to be on her best behavior. Noah, on the other hand, is the son of an F1 legend and also paving his way in the world, having 3 world championships under his belt. He's F1's top racer and undoubtedly a playboy and would rather not be tied down to any commitments other than racing. However, with their close proximity this season, things get heated, both on and off the track for this dynamic duo.
What a great summary you just gave us. I feel like you could write the back of the book.
Wow.
So I need to talk about Noah. When I first read this book, I loved him. Ate him up, like, great. He was annoying me so much in this reread. But what I want to talk about first is Noah is supposed to drive for a team called Bandini. And Noah is described as having like wavy brown hair, sapphire eyes, and tan skin. So, who do you think that Noah was based off of? Like, who would you fan cast for Noah, like from the current grid? And also, I mean, I guess from celebrities too, if you don't think that anyone on the grid like quite fits the vibe. And what team do you think Bandini is supposed to be?
So Bandini, I think their main color, at least from what I've read, is red. So like that makes me think Ferrari. And when I think about the Ferrari kind of lineup now, I'm thinking either like Charles or Carlos. And obviously, Carlos has brown eyes. Charles has like those bluish hazel, like ocean blue eyes, which I think might kind of line up, especially with his brown hair. But I'm with you on this one. When I first read Throttled, I like ate it up. I think I finished it in less than 24 hours. And I think it's because I didn't know anyone on the F1 teams
Mm,
prior to reading that. So I was like, oh, okay, like he's kind of like a smart ass, blah, blah, blah. Like he's kind of rude sometimes, but it's kind of cute, right? Like I can put up with it. This reread made me like really annoyed about his character, kind of up until maybe like 60% in when until like he like actually turned a page in his book. So yeah, I want to say probably Charles, but I don't think that he's like mean.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, I really don't know. Because I also wanted to ask, do you think Maya is inspired by anyone?
I think, and we've talked about this a lot, that Maya could potentially be inspired by Lizzie McIntosh,
Mhm,
which like kind of makes sense. Like she's cute. She does kind of provide like insights to the F1 world. She also vlogs or at least shares about her travel experience, kind of on and off like F1. So yeah, potentially that, but it's also just nice to see like someone kind of like providing this like insight from
mhm.
almost a fan's perspective as well.
Yeah, I did a deep dive because I was like really thinking about this. So she wrote this book in 2019. And it's so interesting because I feel like Maya is so similar to Lizzie McIntosh. Like looks wise, described, sounds like her. Lissy didn't come into working for F1 until 2021. So what a weird coincidence, right?
Wow, that's
Um,
amazing.
and then to me, when I'm reading it, it felt so clear that like looks wise, I mean, I wouldn't really describe Charles as tan, but it seemed so clear to me that like looks wise, Bandini is Ferrari, right? The red car, the only red car on the track, whatever. And then Noah is Charles and Santi is Carlos. That was like so clear to me. But
Yes.
in 2019, they weren't teammates. It was Charles and Sebastian. So I almost feel like Lauren Asher like manifested this into existence with
Amazing.
like them becoming teammates and then like Lissy coming to F1. Obviously, Lissy's not actually related to Carlos, but it's so interesting to me. But I think personality wise, I don't think Noah's based off Charles. I think maybe Max, because Noah is like a veteran. He's like in his 30s, and then Santi comes and joins in as like the new guy. So it almost feels like the vibe of Ferrari in 2019 when Sebastian is like a renowned driver who's been there for a while and Charles is the newbie, but like flipped and then add Carlos. So I don't know, personality wise, it kind of felt like Max, but I also don't really see Max being like that kind of player, like, asshole type because he seems really introverted and, like, he just kind of vibes by himself, so
Exactly.
I don't know who it seems like a mix of a lot of drivers. I don't know if there's, like, a known playboy, like, F1 driver, maybe Pierre. So maybe Noah is a mix of Charles, Max, and Pierre, and then, like, some, like, long-standing driver like Sebastian or Fernando.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think for sure I can see that. I think also, well, I'm saying I think a lot, but I think while I was reading, I definitely do picture Charles as the main character. I think that's just me though, because I like Charles, like he's my favorite F1 driver. So regardless of the description, I usually have like Charles in the back of my head.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's fair. I don't visualize when I read. Um, so I always have to wait until I finish the book and then look up fan art because I don't wanna, like, spoil anything, and when I started looking up, like, Noah and Maya, every picture that popped up was Charles and Lissy McIntosh. So, I think everybody else kind of had the same idea as us, or everybody else's idea inspired our idea.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I think one of the most iconic moments of this book is when Noah in Spain, because Spain is Santi's home race. So in Spain, Noah decides to let Santi win. And
Iconic.
it's so funny, like reading this back now, like being more into F1 and like understanding the vibe a little bit. Could you imagine any driver on the grid right now letting someone win?
Absolutely not. I think, yes, winning in your home race is awesome and everyone wants to, but I think everyone is just so competitive to the
Mhm.
point where they understand, but if they can like get podium, then they're going to get podium. Like there isn't no way. Like even with Red Bull this year, right? Like Max was able to kind of lift like his speed a little bit to let Checo kind of gain a little bit more, but obviously like Max was still first place and Checo got second place whenever that happened. But like I think that's the only time where team members or like other drivers would kind of like help another driver.
Yeah. I wanna say, like, maybe if it was at the point in the season where they've already won the Drivers' Championship, constructors already settled, and you're kinda just racing like we had this year with the end races, maybe then they'd be like, "Oh, just let them win," but, like, I don't think so. Hon I mean, definitely, like, not Max, like, Max was still gunning for first place, and I was like, "Dude, you got the championship. Constructors is settled, like, go to the beach, take a day off."
He's like, no,
He's
I
like, "I will
want
still get first."
to. Yes, I want to prove to myself that I am going to win each
Mhm.
and every race as much as possible, which like I think everyone else is kind of in the same boat just because like it means that they're working hard to be the best driver that they can be.
Yeah, yeah. I really can't see anyone doing this, or even just, I like, the teammate bond that they build by the end where they're doing, like, a YouTube video with Maya, and she asked them, like, "Hold up, who you think deserves to be world champion this year?" And they pick each other instead of themselves. I was
That's
like,
so
"That would
corny.
never happen."
No,
No way. I feel like
absolutely
it would
not.
be really hard to even be that close with your teammate because you are also each other's biggest competition. It was kind of giving like bro Sadie's, and I was shook.
Yeah, I like that scene in particular. I was like, Noah, you already got the girl. Like, there's no way that you need to continue to kiss up to like her and her brother. Like, it's fine. Just say that you want to
Yeah,
be world champion.
like it's all good.
Yes. Just be honest.
Honestly. Yeah. And I can't even imagine being Maya too and like you're dating your brother's biggest competition. Like, girl, good luck.
I would be so uncomfortable, but at the same time, like, I don't know how else you would like date, right? Like you're so close to these drivers and you see them practically like every week and you're hanging out with them at parties. So like the close proximity makes sense. The closer proximity is a little bit uncomfortable in my book. Like they're not stuck with each other per se, but just having like her brother there. There was like the scene where, they get a little physical and Santi like comes out and like makes a whole comment of like, oh, so you're like changing up like your whole routine. Like
Oh
it's
my
actually
God,
really
yeah.
quiet over there. I was dying. Like I had a whole giggle fit. I was like, oh, so uncomfortable.
Yeah. So they have like their almost like their trailers, I guess, like their get ready rooms.
Yeah.
And there's like beds in the room and I'm envisioning like it's their beds both on the wall that's like the adjoining wall. And Maya and Noah literally like have sex against the wall, like in the bed, while Santi is in the room next door. And like they're trying to be quiet or whatever, but Santi comes out and he's like, yeah, I could hear the bed like banging against the wall. I guess you changed up your pre-race ritual. And I was just like, ew. Like that's for
I would not. Like, I think if I were to date someone like on my brother's team, like that would be an absolute no. Like, just how close my brother is, like that's oh, gross.
no, yeah, that's a no for me. So good luck to you, Maya. I feel like we have to talk about romance tropes in this book and ones that we liked, ones that we didn't like. This book introduced me to my favorite F1 romance trope, which is girlfriend or boyfriend talking to the driver on the radio. Love
Yes.
it. Love it. Ate that up. Oh my God. There's a moment where Santi, or not Santi, Noah gets in a crash, like a really bad crash. And then the next race back, he's like driving kind of not as good as he could. He's not overtaking, he's just kind of there. And he asks to talk to Maya, and him and Maya have this whole like really cute romantic moment over the team radio. If this happened in real life, I would eat this up. And recently, we both started like rewatching back from many seasons ago. And whatever season it is where Nico Rosberg wins the championship, they let his wife on the radio, and I was screaming. I was like, oh my God, this is my favorite F1 romance book trope come to life. She just said something like very sweet and simple, like, congrats, you did it, whatever. Maya and Noah had a whole ass conversation, like several pages of dialogue. She was being quite graphic. And she says at the end of the book that it went viral on YouTube. So of course it did, because I would eat that up. The views would all be me.
All 1 million whatever views would
Yeah, it
be.
would all be me.
Yes. I actually love that trope as well. Like, I think that's just so heartfelt. Like, being able to hear someone that you love just like on the other side when you kind of least expect it. Kind of like getting into F1 a little bit. Like, I don't think that that whole conversation was realistic enough because like the drivers are focused on like their turns and everything, but like I think overall like it was just such a cute moment where like the world around them just disappeared and it was just Maya, Noah, and like the car and he won and I was like yeah. So
Hmm.
excited. I think the other like trope that I really love is enemies to lovers.
Mm.
I'm just a sucker for that. Like you hate them and then like all the small things start like switching and you're like, oh, that's kind of endearing. Like, oh, like the way he, you know, I don't have anything at the top of my head, but it's just like the 180 switch between, oh, I hate the way he breathes to, oh, I love the way he breathes.
Yeah, I love a good enemies to lovers. I think the trope that this book had that I actually really hate and what made it a hard reread is the like I can fix him trope.
Yeah.
Well, not even really, because Maya, I really like Maya as a character. She's like great at setting boundaries, and she told him, I'm not interested in anything casual. Like, I only want a relationship and cut it off and like stuck to it, which was really slay. So maybe not the I can fix him trope, but the he's gonna fix years and years and years of bad behavior for this one girl trope. I just feel like it's not realistic, and I think we see a lot of that in like rom-coms and books and stuff where it's this playboy who's like sleeping around and never commits, and then he finally meets this like one dream girl who inspires him to change his whole life around and become a completely different person and go to therapy and address his toxic past and like blah blah blah. I just don't think that's realistic, and I think putting that kind of vibe out there encourages a lot of girls to like stay in relationships that aren't great because they're hoping it's going to be one of those situations and whole change for her. So not a big fan of that trope, and I kind of would have been happier to see Maya stick to her boundaries and like just end up with someone else. But obviously that's not the point of the book.
Yeah, I agree. That made me a little bit uncomfortable just because I think the pace of the book was fast, which is fine, but not realistic in the sense of like, oh, yeah, like just like the beginning of the season, he was sleeping around with people, which is fine. And then, like, suddenly 2 or 3 races in, like, oh, he wants to like potentially try and like give something to like the person he cares about or likes like a chance to give it a shot, like even like a week or a month, like it, I don't know, like for me, I want something just slightly more realistic, even if it's like, oh, they're continuing to date and they're working through like his problems together. I think I would have really enjoyed that just a little bit more.
Yeah, I think even just like them having more of a conversation about it, like I feel like he just comes to her and he says, I want to try this. And she's like, okay. I don't know. I just wish there was like more of a dialogue around it. Obviously, this is like a romance book. It's like the equivalent of like a Hallmark movie. Like we're supposed to just have faith and be like, oh, this is great. But I do think it would have been nice to have more of a conversation around it because he did really hurt her. He took her on a date and then the same night when she set that boundary and was like, I'm really only looking for something serious, he got so mad that he got trashed and slept with someone else, like within hours of being on a date with her. And then it was all over the news the next day for her to see. Like he wasn't even discreet about it. So I think she maybe let him off the hook a little bit too easy for the level of connection that they had.
Agreed. And especially for someone that like was able to create clear boundaries of this is what I need in a relationship and I know that you can't give it to me. So I would much rather like cut our like losses there so that I don't get more heartbroken.
Yeah, exactly. But he does really turn it around, which is great to see. Love to see a man unlearning toxic masculinity and like addressing things that happened in their past that are impacting the way they're treating their partners. Love that. It was great to see the speed at which it happened. Yeah, so I'm also thinking a lot about Maya and Santi's upbringing and how that impacts them as characters because they are a lot different than the other people in the Formula One world. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I really related to like Maya and Santi's upbringing, mostly because like the way they grew up, they didn't really have as much like financial wise and anything like that, but their family made it work for Santi. So like he did the go-karting thing
Mhm.
and the like both his parents made the sacrifices as well as Maya. Like the entire family kind of made sacrifices to make it happen. And I thought that the support that like the parents had for Santi was just very like heartfelt. And it's not always something that you like actually hear about or see. Like obviously, like you'll always hear like, and I want to thank my parents and blah blah blah. But it was just nice to see like the like camaraderie or like the like communication aspect of how they support both Maya and Santi. Like obviously Santi is a little bit older and he was able to kind of give back to both of his parents, and Maya is kind of known to be a little bit more, I don't want to say reckless, because I think Maya does a really good job at providing like clear boundaries of whether she's comfortable with something or not.
Mhm.
But she has a little bit less direction, I think, in terms of this is what I want to be when I grow up. Like she's a little bit more of a free spirit and she wants to kind of just explore her options before settling into an actual career. And I think I definitely relate to that side a little bit more because my mom was always like harping on me for not knowing exactly what I want. And I'm like, oh well, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Like I have time. I'm still young. I'll learn from my mistakes and all of that. So it was nice to see like both sides where like you know what you want, you're working hard to get it, and then you don't know what you want, but you have like these kind of skill sets that you're going to nurture and grow.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was nice to see people who weren't born into the F1 world and had to like work their way up, didn't come from money, really self-made kind
Mhm.
of vibe. I also think it's the perfect pairing for Noah because Noah is that rich upbringing, comes from the Formula One world, and doesn't have really any of a connection emotionally with his family. So ending up with someone who has this like close family connection that he can become a part of, I think is perfect for him. And they're really good compliments to each other.
Yeah, I agree. It was kind of nice to see like Noah looking at like Santi and Maya's family and like kind of identifying like the difference. Like yes, he like Noah is very privileged and he was able to get like X, Y, and Z. But I think at the very end of the day, like he was learning that it didn't really matter. Like all of the material items didn't really matter to him if he didn't have someone to like go home to or like someone to celebrate his wins with.
Yeah, it was nice to see him become more of a person because even Liam and Jax, who are drivers on this other team in the book, they comment a few times that Noah doesn't spend a lot of time with people that they didn't even think to like invite him out because he typically has a different ritual that he does. And Noah was spending his pre-race rituals in his little trailer thing, like alone, listening to music, giving himself a pep talk. And it's nice to see by the end that his pre-race ritual involves connection with another person and that he's able to let go of his drive for only racing to matter and only coming in first place to matter to connect with Sandy and to connect with Maya and Maya's family. It was very heartwarming.
Yeah, and actually going back to the point you made where like his pre-drive ritual was to like, stick to himself, listen to music. There was one scene where Maya and Santi were like in Santi's little like area getting ready and they were just talking and, like just chatting about random things, and Noah's on the other side like, "Oh my God, like why are they so loud? Like is this like typical for the two of them?" And I think at one point he like not necessarily confronts Maya, but kind of tells her that, oh, like you guys are a little loud over there. But it wasn't like, please shut up. It was more like, oh, like, does Santi actually mind you being there? And Maya's like, no, he doesn't. Like, he actually asks that I'm there to support him. And I think that was like in Noah's mind, like, oh, like holy crap, like I don't need to be alone.
Right. Yeah. Although to be honest, I'm probably more like Noah. Like before a big event, like, don't talk to me.
I'm the
I
same way.
I feel like I care about other people so much and I pick up on other people's energy so much that if I have something big coming up that's focusing on just me and I spend like the 20 minutes before talking to someone else, I'm going to be thinking about them the whole time. I'm going to be like picking up what they're talking about or picking up their energy if they seem a little bit off. So I'm definitely team Noah isolation ritual.
I'm the same exact way. Like I need to blast my music and it needs to be like the right like type of music, like it needs to hype me up for the specific situation, like interviews and things like that. Like I just need to be in my own zone before I like get
Yeah.
there and like perform.
Yeah, I'm never gonna be the person that's like, let me call a friend or a loved one for a little good luck wish as I'm going into something. I don't even like to tell people if I have something until it works out. So,
Yeah.
I gotta say I'm team Noah now. So he changes his ways by the end, but I'm team original Noah now.
Yes. Kind of speaking about like music and playlists, Lauren Asher included playlists for the Dirty Air series. I'm sure she also provides playlists for other books as well. And this is something that I've found to be common with other authors. Do you typically listen to the playlists that authors provide?
No. Do you?
Yes and no. Like I think when I first noticed them, I was like, oh, like this is very interesting. Like the Twilight series, I think had a playlist, and I
Oh,
was
did
like,
it really?
yes, it did. So I got into that. And then there was one for the Kingmakers series with Sabrina Gallo. I listened to
Oh,
that, and that like put me in that like Sabrina mindset. I like listened to maybe two songs on this playlist for Throttled, and then I got distracted and I just stopped. I don't typically listen to music when I read, so maybe that's why it.
I don't even remember what's on it. I'm pulling it up now for like our enjoyment purposes.
Oh,
God's Plan by Drake. That's how we're starting off. Okay.
yes.
High Horse by Casey Musgraves. I Think He Knows by Taylor Swift. Sorry Latino Remix by Justin Bieber and J Balvin. Locked Out of Heaven by Bruno Mars. Die a Happy Man by Thomas Rhett. I think they actually dance to that like in the book.
Oh yeah, they do.
I know it's definitely in that video that Noah has at the end when he proposes.
Yes.
So I think that's that same song they dance to. No, I did not listen to this. I honestly didn't even really read. I feel like when I read, I just like skip over everything until the book starts. I don't even register like what chapter I'm on. Like I'm not like, oh, this is chapter 40 or whatever. Like I just read it straight through. Like it's all just one chapter. I usually read books in one sitting though, so
Yeah.
it just goes all the way through.
No, that's fair. I think even I read a little bit slower than you. I think this time I took about a week to read Throttled. And the only thing I really noticed about the chapters changing was the perspective that we were in. Like, other than that, I'm like, oh, like chapter 23, what is that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, speaking of that, because it said you said it took you about a week to read this. It took me like a whole day. And for me, that's unusual, okay? For people, it's like a whole day. That's actually weird.
Yes.
When I first read this, I read it probably in 1 3 hour sitting, like devoured it. I was like, this is amazing. And I went on Goodreads to relog that I read it as a reread. And I pulled it up and I had rated this 5 stars. I loved this book the first time I read it. And this time, I don't know, it just wasn't hitting. I changed my rating to 3 stars, which is sad to me because I don't know how it went from 5 to 3. I think maybe I picked a bad time to read this because I'm currently doing a reread of the Throne of Glass series and I'm about halfway through. And I had to pause that, read this book, and then I jumped back into Throne of Glass after. And it's really jarring to go from like a fantasy
I can't imagine.
to contemporary. Like usually if I read a contemporary romance, I read it at the end of a fantasy series as like a palate cleanser. And I had just gotten to like a really good part in Throne of Glass. So I was kind of annoyed. I should have read this before I started my Throne of Glass reread, but it just wasn't hitting the same. I don't remember like being this annoyed by Noah the first time I read this. I thought he was like a heartthrob. This time I was like, ew, like he's kind of a jerk. What do you think? Did your rating change? Did it stay the same?
My rating kind of stayed the same. So I use Storygraph a little bit more in depth. Goodreads only has like my Kindle reads, but I was looking back at it and Storygraph, I had it at 3.5 my first read. It was enjoyable, a little bit like obvious because it's a rom-com kind of like situation. Like, they're going to make it out together. But this time I also had it as a 3. Like, it was enjoyable. It's like a nice like read if you wanted something like quick and dirty with a little bit of spice. But I don't know if I would reread it again.
Yeah, I would still very much recommend it to people. I just don't think it's a reread book. I think it's a book you read the first time, you eat it up, you're like, yes, I love this. Like, great beach read, great rainy day stuck at home kind of read, and you will enjoy it and fully immerse yourself into the world and eat it up. But it kind of loses its luster when you go back for the reread. So I think it's a one-time read only.
I agree. I also would fully recommend this as a first read for anyone trying to get into F1. Like, I think there's a lot of explanation, like decent explanation about how like the races are and all of that, and kind of like the outside activities as well. So if
Yeah.
you're unsure about F1, definitely would recommend like the Dirty Air series overall.
Yeah, and I think it's fun. She does give a decent amount of explanation. She went into detail about like what qualifying is, really kind of introduces you to the world. If you're a sports romance person, you would love this. It's a good book. I would still recommend it. I don't know, maybe a 3 is not a accurate rating for me. I'd probably say more like a 3.5, but it's definitely not the 5 I originally gave it. But I must have ate this up the first time.
I mean, you told me that I like really needed to read it. I think like after you read the whole series, I was like, all right, like, and I think I did. I like read Throttled like a week after you recommended it to me, like finished it in a day, which is very uncommon for me. Like, I usually read at night, maybe just a couple of hours here and there. But I remember like I went to bed and I didn't get to sleep until like 2 or 3 in the morning, just like trying to finish it up.
Hmm. Mary is such a good friend, guys. Mary is that friend that like when you tell them, I just read this and it was amazing, or I just watched this and it was amazing, like she actually goes and reads it and watches it and then we'll talk to you about it.
I'm
So,
just here for a good time.
but this was all really just part of my like 7-step plan to get you into F1.
And here I am. It took less than a year.
It worked.
It worked.
I think that's all we really wanted to cover. Is anything else coming to mind for you on this book? Like any parting thoughts?
No, I think that was pretty much it for me too. Love Noah. Don't think that it's like specific to Charles, although like I think looks wise, definitely can see that. And I love Maya, especially if I like imagine her as Lissy. Amazing.
Yes, yes, yeah. So this is our first F1 book club. I think we are going to continue doing this. We're going to pepper it throughout. It's not going to be every week, but every once in a while we'll have F1 book club episode. I'm thinking probably our next one is going to be the next book in the Dirty Air series, just for continuity purposes. So if you're listening and you enjoyed this and you want to read along so that you can stay up to date with our next read, definitely do that. We would love that. We're going to post some of our favorite quotes on our Instagram. And yeah, looking forward to reading more F1 books, rereading some of the F1 books that we already read. And yeah,
If you guys have already read it, feel free to let us know on our socials or in the comments on YouTube.
yes, we would love to know your takes, your rating, your favorite quotes, your favorite moments. Let us know.
All right, well, that's it for me. Over and out.
Bye.
Bye, F1 World.
No, not yet, not yet.
Oh no, I'm saying like bye for today.